This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jerika Duncan. President Trump is about to sign what he calls the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. The tax and spending cut bill passed the House yesterday. The president is speaking to a crowd on the South Lawn filled with families from Congress and the military. Let's listen in.
Dignity. We have something that's happened miraculously so fast. You know that our military now is the most sought-after job there's ever been, serving in our military. 1 year ago, people didn't want to join our military. They didn't want to join our police or firefighters. They didn't want to join anything having to do with our country. And now, as you probably know, the enlistment is at an all-time record. We're packed. We're full. And I just think that's so important because that was so sad 1 year ago when I heard those statistics. We had a different president, but nobody wanted to join, and now we're at a record. And I will say that I just left NATO, where we had a tremendous experience. They've agreed to put up over $1 trillion a year. They went from less than 2% to 5%, and nobody thought that was possible. And they told me very strongly, the leaders of a big part of the world, very respected people all, they told me that, 1 year ago your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So that's the way it is, and that's the way we like it. And it's only going to get hotter, I promise you that. After that spectacular display of American power, let me just say that God bless the United States military, and God bless the USA. God bless the USA. And to all Americans, I want to wish you a very happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July. This is going to be something special. This spirit in this country, we haven't seen anything like it in many, many years and decades. Let me also express our gratitude to our magnificent First Lady. She worked very hard to make this all work. And we have a fireworks display about 9 o'clock tonight. I hope you're all going to be around and watch it. I know our congressmen and our senators who are standing right here, so many of them, they did such a great job. They're going to be here. I guarantee you, they're not leaving. They're not leaving. Thanks as well to the National Park Service, the USO, and countless friends and distinguished guests. We have so many people in the audience that have so much to do with the success of our country. We've, I think, had probably the most successful almost 6 months as a president and the presidency. I think they're saying it was the best 6 months, and I know for a fact they're saying the last 2 weeks there has never been anything like it as far as winning, winning, winning. So as you know, 2 weeks ago, our incredible Air Force pilots conducted one of the most successful military strikes in all of history. Operation Midnight Hammer, and that's exactly what it was. It was a hammer. This evening, we're honored to be joined by 150 airmen and their families from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, home of the B-2 bomber. And we've kept them a little bit on guard. We kept them a little bit, let's be a little bit quiet about it. But if you want to raise your hand very quickly, raise your hand, because you people are just incredible. They don't want to be in disguise. They say, we don't have to do that. They're looking at us like we're a bunch of babies. We don't have to be in disguise. We saw all those hands go up. Thank you very much. We owe you everything. Great job. Incredible. Just flawless. One of the most flawless military campaigns in the history of our country. If you remember years ago, they had helicopters crashing into each other. It was a disaster, the hostages in Iran. And we had just the opposite. We didn't have any crashes. We didn't lose any planes. We didn't lose anybody. Those beautiful planes that you saw were totally stealth. They flew right over the center of a very hostile country, and they never even saw it coming. And then they said, skedaddle. They dropped the bombs. They said, skedaddle. And that big sucker turned over like this on its side, and it got out of there. Well, I'll tell you what, how they do that, but they can do it. I asked our great General Kane, how do they do that? do they really love doing that? Look at them, they're all laughing. And they said, do they really like doing it, sir? They can't wait. Better you than me. That's all I can say. It was a flawless mission. Every single bomb hit, and it was total obliteration, total obliteration. Now, even the fake news is admitting that. They hated to admit it, but they had no choice. That was an incredible thing, and these heroic pilots showed our enemies what it means to fly, fight, and win. To every service member who supported that mission, and we have many of them here. We've made we've made you proud by supporting, but you've made us even prouder by having the courage to get in those gorgeous machines and fly through the roughest airspace anywhere in the world. And we salute you and we honor you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And we're also honored and delighted to be joined by hundreds of service members and military families. Those families are the best we have, from all across the U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. I love the Space Force. You know why? Because we're the ones that did it. It's turned out to be a very invaluable force, actually. The Coast Guard and the Marines are incredible people. On behalf of our entire nation, this 4th of July, we thank you for keeping America safe, strong, sovereign, and free. Thank you very much for being here. Great honor. And stick around for the fireworks. And our country's had so much to celebrate this Independence Day. As we enter our 249th year, America is winning, winning, winning like never before. We're not, I'll tell you, we're in a category now that's where we've wanted to be for a long time. We suffered with 4 horrible years of embarrassment. Afghanistan may be the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. We're never going to let a thing like that happen again. Trillions of dollars are pouring into the United States for investment purposes. Almost $15 trillion. There's never been anything like it. There's never been anything even close. The stock market's at an all-time high. Jobs are at an all-time high. Everything's at an all-time high, and we're going to keep it that way. We have the greatest country in the world, and we're back. We're back like nobody thought possible this quickly. I thought it would take maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3. And we did it in less than 6 months. We are back and strong. We've restored American strength and deterrence on the world stage. We're respected again. The world is respecting us again. When we did NATO, those leaders came up to me and they said, you know what, we're going to go to a new level of spending because you're requesting it, sir. They didn't talk to you last president like that, I can tell you. They didn't spend any money. They didn't spend anything. In a few moments, we're going to make official the greatest victory yet when I signed the one big, beautiful bill. And before I start, I want to tell you that I've never seen people so happy in our country because of that, because so many different groups of people are being taken care of, the military and civilians of all types, jobs of all types. We're adding things like the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, child tax credits. So many things are being added that we wouldn't even have time to discuss them. When we were doing it, John Thune and Mike Johnson right there, I see Mike, what a job they've done. What a job they've done. But you know, it was supposed to be in 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 different bills. And I was on one of the fake news shows and I said, let's do it in one beautiful, big, we want one big, beautiful bill. I said that to this newscaster. And I think a lot of the congressmen and senators were watching, and they said, let's name the bill that, the one big, beautiful bill. And that's what we did. And what we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history. We've never had anything like that before. Nothing like that they thought would be possible to get passed. And actually, I liked it because we had so much in there that no matter who you are, there was something in that bill that would make your congressman or your senator or your congresswoman, much more importantly, raise their hand and support, right, Lisa? So that was something, and it was really something special. So the American people gave us a historic mandate in November. We won everything. We won the swing states, all 7 swing states. We won every one. That rarely happens. We won the popular vote. We won the districts, 2,750 to 505. That's why when you look at a map, it's all red, a little blue on each end, but it's all red. And by the way, red means Republican, just in case. But we made promises, and it's really promises made, promises kept, and we've kept them. This is a triumph of democracy on the birthday of democracy, and I have to say that the people are happy. They're happy. And I listened to a broadcast, and I read a couple of articles. They have the Democrats, they should have voted for it. They didn't vote for tax cuts. They didn't vote for taking care of people. They didn't vote, not one vote. And we knew that because their hatred of either the country or me or both is so great. They didn't vote at all, and it's terrible. But I just have to say, they have a routine. It's terrible, they say. Terrible, terrible. You saw that guy standing up for hours yesterday. He didn't know what he was even doing there. I say, when's he sitting down? He had a towel. He's wiping his face. That's not too elegant. But what is he? I said, what is he doing for so long? And he couldn't criticize the bill. He was criticizing everyone else and everything else. So they've developed, and this is according to the news media, they've developed a standard line, and we can't let them get away with it. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, everybody's going to die. It's actually just the opposite. Everybody's going to live. This is just the opposite. And I just want you to know, if you see anything negative put out by Democrats, it's all a con job. And they said, and they compared it to just like the con job of Russia, 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 and all of the other things they did. The 51 intelligence agents said, and the laptop from hell, it came from Russia, they said. No, it didn't come. A lot of things come from Russia. That didn't come from Russia. And it was all proven out to be a fake job, and that's what they're doing with this. So we just have to look forward, fellas, look forward and just say what it is, because it's the most popular bill ever signed in the history of our country. Whether you're military or anybody else, this is the most popular bill ever signed. And it includes the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut, $1.7 trillion, and yet you won't even notice it. Just waste, fraud, and abuse in American history. So you have the biggest tax cut, the biggest spending cut, the largest border security investment in American history. We want to have strong borders, and the only thing is we want to have great elections, too. You need strong borders and elections, and my people have promised me that we're going to go into elections, and we're going to make sure they're not rigged, that they're not sullied. We're going to make sure that the elections are going to be fair. You need 2 things. You need strong borders, and you need fair elections. Now, we're going to make sure on the elections also, and our armed forces are one of the most vital military modernizations of all time. It will take place. So we rebuilt our military in our first term, and now we're going to modernize and remodernize our military, including building a great golden dome all over our land, so that if they get nasty with us, it's going to be knocked down. It's going to make any of the golden domes, they call them the Iron Domes, we're calling ours the Golden Dome, because we did the Iron Domes, and we do sort of everything, if you want to know the truth, but this blows it away. We're going to keep you safe. I want to thank every member of the House and Senate who worked to get this bill on my desk, and many of them are here, and I'm not going to mention all their names because we'll be standing here, but I have to mention a few. And especially I want to thank Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's been incredible. We have somebody that it was a passion. I think he actually loved it. It wasn't easy, but he loved it. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who's right here. Speaker, thank you very much. What a job, and he worked so closely with the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who's a fantastic guy. And those two are a team that is not going to be beat. When you look at them and you look at their counterparts on the other side, it's not even close. I want to thank both of you people for doing an incredible job. Thank you very much, John and Mike. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a brave man. Steve, you know, he suffered a tragedy a number of years ago. I was at his hospital bedside that night with Melania, with our First Lady, and he had no chance. The doctor said he has very little chance, and you look better today than you did then. You didn't look particularly good that night, I will say. But I learned one thing, his beautiful wife loved him. She was a disaster, right? I told him, I said, Steve, I can only tell you one thing. I was with your family and I was with your wife, and your wife was devastated. She loves you. I've seen a lot of wives that, they don't seem to be so concerned in those situations. That's the kind of wife you don't want. But you have a great, beautiful wife who was really there, and you really have done. You're a very brave guy, and Mike and John and everybody that's standing with you knows it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. House Majority Whip, this is a guy who is great. When I have a problem, I call him up, and he gets it done. He's a tough cookie. I don't know why he's not the governor of Minnesota. He comes from Minnesota. He's like, oh, look, he goes, no, I don't want to run for governor. You know, come to think of it, I think that's a good idea. You would win so easily. The guy is terrible. You would win. You just have to take a look at that handsome face of yours, and you'd win. Tom Emmer, everybody. He did a great job. I think you should consider that, although we don't want to lose him, do we? We don't want to. Let's say we are. I think say we are. What a job you did. And Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's incredible. Senate Finance Chairman Mike Crapo. Thank you, Mike. What a job. What a job. He knows that tax stuff. Him and Jason, they really know their stuff. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham.
So you were listening to President Donald Trump thank those who helped him get the big, beautiful bill across the finish line. He is getting ready to sign the bill at any moment. Want to go to Scott McFarland at the White House. Yesterday, President Trump said, quote, I think I have more power now after the bill's passage. Scott, just talk to us about how significant this victory is for his administration. I mean, you heard him just a moment ago talk about trillions of investment, jobs at an all-time high. As far as the bill is concerned, saying more money for the military, there's money for civilians of all types, child tax credits, biggest bill of any type in history. What is that all about?
These are extended remarks, Jerika, because the president is trying to emphasize that this is a victory. He is trying to declare a victory for the country and for his party, and he really overcame some hurdles to get this thing passed. There were dissenting voices inside the Republican Party, some who thought this spirals the deficit further, huge debt concerns. Others said this risks cutting Medicaid to people who need it. In fact, the critics of this bill say this could cost Medicaid and nutritional assistance to millions of Americans. So it's been controversial, but he got it through on a party line vote against some odds. A few things he mentioned during these remarks. He called it the most popular bill ever signed. That's kind of the issue here. It is not polled well. There's no sense the country has galvanized behind this bill or knows much about it. He's going to take this signing ceremony and try to amplify the bill, trying to make it popular. I'll tell you this, Jerika, no matter what, this signing ceremony you're about to see, it's going to get clipped and used by both parties. Republicans think this is a win. Democrats think this is a political pariah they can mechanize in the 2026 midterms.
Scott, I want to go now to congressional correspondent Nicole Killian. She's on Capitol Hill for us. How does this bill affect Americans, Nicole?
Well, I think as you heard the president say there, he believes that there is something for everybody in this package. You know, the centerpiece of this new law, once he signs it, is an extension of his 2017 tax cut. So, for instance, families will notice an increase in the child tax credit of up to $2,200. It also increases spending on border security and military, top domestic priorities of his. It also features popular proposals like no taxes on tips and overtime, something he campaigned on, although those provisions are temporary. But in order to pay for some of this, it does come with some pretty deep spending cuts, as Scott mentioned, to food assistance programs like SNAP, as well as Medicaid. And the Congressional Budget Office projects that this could add upwards of $3.4 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years. So that has been a concern among some lawmakers here on Capitol Hill. Worth pointing out to people as as well that many of these tax provisions in particular will likely take effect as soon as this year, but some of those changes to Medicaid and food assistance programs, like implementing those new work requirements, will be phased in the coming years. Jerika.
He came down hard on Democrats and said that those who didn't vote for him had a hatred for the country or me or both. There seems to be issues with any type of criticism, and as you mentioned, that $3.4 trillion that it could add to the deficit. Talk about the expectation of how this could affect Republicans in the next year's midterms.
Well, I think this bill and this legislation will be a point of litigation, not only for Republicans, but also for Democrats, because clearly they see the impact of this bill differently. You know, you heard the president there kind of take aim at Democrats, suggesting that they are, not being upfront with respect to this package, suggesting people are going to die. And you heard him say, well, I think people are going to live. So I think you're going to continue to hear those competing talking points as we approach next year's midterms. But worth pointing out that we saw, for instance, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, who was up for re-election next year, announced earlier this week that he would not run again. And while he told me that it wasn't specifically because of this bill, he did express some very deep reservations about this package, particularly those changes to Medicaid, as did Susan Collins, another Senate Republican who opposed this package. She, too, faces a decision about whether she's going to run again next year. And of course, you had Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who also opposed this package. Of course, in the House, we saw Tom Massey, also a fellow Kentuckian, as well as Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. So the president did face some defections with respect to this bill, even though it was passed along party lines. But certainly it will be in play come next year for the midterms.
Yeah, and it happens so quickly. Nicole, stand by. I'm going to turn now to Scott McFarland. Another deadline looming that we want to talk about is the next round of tariffs that hit next week.
Yeah, the president met this deadline. He wanted to sign the bill into law by July 4th, and here he is on Independence Day doing so. But he's got a deadline of Wednesday, July 9th at midnight Eastern time for tariffs to be re-implemented or raised again. Dozens of countries across the globe that has the prospect of doing what it did back in April when he initially introduced those tariffs, jamming up the stock market, rattling small businesses, potentially triggering inflation. There's an uncertainty between now and Wednesday, and there's been little indication of definitive progress with most of the nations across the globe, and it's uncertain what the president does before that deadline. But as he moves over to sign the bill, let me just note a few things you heard in those remarks, Jerika. A few things we should fact check. He said military recruitment had plummeted during the Biden administration. In fact, last year, 2024, military recruitment was up 12%. He made another baseless claim about rigged elections, again, intimating the 2020 election was rigged. And one thing Democrats have noted, Jerika, he has in the past 48 hours infused more of his remarks with the word hate when responding to Democrats or referencing Democrats. We saw it last night in Iowa, and we saw it again on the South Lawn of the White House on the nation's birthday.
And as he's walking down with his wife, hand in hand, Melania Trump, to sign that bill, I think we have time to speak to Nicole for another quick question, just about reminding us how we got to this point. There was a lot of contentious debate over getting it over the finish line, Nicole. And it looks like
that's right. In fact, we saw, lawmakers here at the Capitol around the clock, both in the Senate and in the House, working on this package well throughout the night, 24 hours plus before they were able to vote on these packages, in large part because there were some last-minute deal-making to try to win over senators. We saw, for instance, in the Senate, Vice President J.D. Vance ultimately had to break the tie on this bill because of those three Republicans who opposed it. And of course, in the House, we also saw a lot of delays, even just to get the bill to the point where it could be debated on the House floor. We saw votes held open for hours, as behind the scenes you had officials from the White House negotiating with Republicans to try to get them to yes in that final vote. And of course, the president himself was quite engaged on this. He came up to Capitol Hill a number of times to rally lawmakers, to push them forward, to get this bill to his desk by July 4th. And of course, now we see that he got his wish.
Yeah, and it looks like he is signing this bill into law right now. He just picked up the pen. Looks like he's looking for where exactly before they take the picture, and he's signing the bill. The one big beautiful bill. You see thumbs up, surrounded by people within his cabinet. You see Mike Johnson, the House Speaker. You see Steve Scalise, I believe, off to his left. Scott, if you could tell us what Democrats are saying regarding this photo op.
This is quite an American moment, Jerika. Both parties are quite confident this photo op, the one you're seeing right now, is going to be political nitroglycerin for them in 2026. Republicans think they have a big victory here to tout to voters, to show what their control means. Democrats think this thing is a political loser. It's going to impact millions of families, could cut health care, nutritional assistance for people, just the kind of thing they can use in the midterms to win back the U.S. House and contain this president.
All right, well, on this beautiful sunny day on the south lawn of the White House, everyone seems to be all smiles as the one big beautiful bill was just signed into law. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Jerika Duncan.
$1,881. That's how much the big deal is worth. Who's in first place? Let's see. We have Ben with the barbecue, $6,703. Ben, keep it or give it up?
I'm going for the big deal, Wayne. Come on, man.
That was easy.